I mean, we go through so many oysters now at Oyster Fest, and we've got the raw ones, we've got the grilled ones, we've got the po' boys. They all need to be shucked. So it's nice to have like guys that really know what they're doing and don't hurt themselves as much as I used to.
I'm Delia Colon, and this is The Zest. Citrus, seafood, Spanish flavor, and Southern charm. The Zest celebrates cuisine and community in the Sunshine State. Today, tied to table, we've got your preview of Tampa Oyster Festival. Once the holiday hoopla fades, we all need something delicious to look forward to. And luckily, we've got just the thing, Tampa Oyster Festival. It happens on January 10th, so mark your calendar now because this event checks all the boxes. It's outdoors during Florida's best weather. It's packed with fresh seafood, live music, and the kind of friendly crowd that makes you glad you came hungry. And bonus, Tampa Oyster Festival supports a great cause, Frameworks of Tampa Bay, which is a nonprofit that helps kids build emotional intelligence and the life skills they'll lean on for years to come. I know we all could benefit from making sure those kids have that. So joining us for a sneak peek of the festival is one of the organizers, Bill Murphy. He'll share his favorite ways to enjoy oysters and even dive into the ethics of eating them.
My family's originally from Brooklyn, New York, and my grandfather was a big clam guy. So, like right around Brooklyn, Sheepshead Bay was like a big seafood place, and he loved clams, and I couldn't stand them. But that brininess, like he used to always let us eat it. Now we moved to North Carolina, and my summer job one year was working at a place called Aw Shucks. And I was an oyster shucker, and I had never really eaten oysters before or shucked them, definitely. But I had this job, and the guys taught me how to shuck oysters, and I probably ate like one out of every six that I shucked just to maintain quality control. But I fell in love with them then, and then living in kind of North Carolina, and going down to Charleston every once in a while. They have a great culture of like oyster roasts and low country boils and just kind of utilizing all that great produce and food that they have down there that's kind of local. So it just became part of the routine. And when I met Wake and Doug and the guys that are in B&D, we just started roasting oysters for fun, and that's how everything got started.
Wow. When you were shucking oysters, any injuries?
There would be an occasional slip of the oyster knife. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it takes some practice. I'm definitely not up to my game on shucking raw oysters. We get the pros to come in for Oyster Fest, and like it's amazing to me how many they can go through. I mean, we go through so many oysters now at Oyster Fest, and we've got the raw ones, we've got the grilled ones, we've got the po' boys. They all need to be shucked. So it's nice to have like guys that really know what they're doing and don't hurt themselves as much as I used to.
Yeah. Okay. Since you brought up Oyster Fest, let's talk about it. How did it come about? People want to attend, so give us all the details.
It's a great event. So John Wakefield, his daughters were part of the framework kind of program, and he became part of the board, and he was just looking for ways that we could help generate funds and kind of draw attention to what frameworks was doing. And at the time, Wake and I would, do oyster roasts for friends that had businesses and wanted to have like, kind of Christmas parties or stuff like that. And they were really popular, and it was just a good vibe, right? I think everybody had a good time. The food was great. It created this kind of social kind of interaction that we really liked. So he proposed it to Frameworks, and they thought it was a great idea. So we did the first one in the parking lot of Frameworks office over in Seminole Heights, and we had like 20 people there. We roasted like maybe 10 boxes of oysters, and it was the same vibe, right? Everybody was talking, everybody was asking questions, everybody was loving the oysters. So we just kind of kept it rolling, and every year it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think last year we had like 1,100 people there and went through like 10,000 oysters or something like that. So people like it.
I would say so. Okay, when is it? Where is it? And most importantly, what are some of the standout oyster preparations that will be featured at the festival?
Absolutely. So the event is going to be Saturday, January 10th, from 1 to 5, and it's at Tabella's, which is over past like the port of Tampa. It's a great venue. It's got, covered areas, which are really, good, in Florida to get out of the sun and everything. And it gives us a place to kind of set everything up. We're going to have, I think, 5 different preparations of oysters. So we're going to have obviously raw oysters that they'll be shucking. We're going to have steamed oysters, which we do on an open pit, fire, and we steam them, put them out in buckets. Everybody can shuck them and dress them themselves. We're going to have grilled oysters, the B&D grilled oysters, which are a delicacy, and everybody has, that's usually a line for those. Last year, we added fried oyster po' boys, which were amazing. On top of that, we have Mark Danzy, who's part of B&D, is in charge of the Low Country boil, and he is a master at, shrimp, sausage, onions, corn, all that stuff kind of boiled up with some seasonings. And then for those that maybe don't like oysters, right? I mean, we want everybody to ease into it, and we encourage everybody to at least try one. But we do have some of the best barbecue in Tampa. Casey Ellison and his crew comes in and they do all kinds of barbecue preparations. They did last year. They did a barbecue pizza, which was one of the favorite things I had last year. That was really good. And they did pulled pork, smoked brisket, the whole works. So you definitely don't leave there hungry. That's for sure.
Oh my gosh, I'm full just hearing about it. What do you think it is? What do you think it is about oysters? Because I can feel the vibe that you're describing with the live music and everybody, gathering around these piles of oysters. What do you think it is about oysters that brings people together?
I think there's a romance to it, right? I think oysters, coffee, wine, they have kind of these varietal properties. When I travel nowadays, one of the things that I love doing is making sure that I try different oysters from different regions. So the Pacific Northwest, the Northeast coast, one of my favorite oyster stories, I had traveled to Australia for work, and we were in Melbourne, and we were at this place that was kind of right at the basin of this river that ran through the Australian, some rainforest. And they had oysters on the menu, and I was like, I'm going to, how are the oysters? I asked the guy, and he's like, oh, and he just started describing it. And he's like, he goes, it has a finish of a watermelon rind. And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, all this vegetation just kind of, falls into the river and it feeds the oysters and they just soak it up. And I swear to God, when you ate that oyster, you had the taste of getting that last bite of a watermelon, and just so herbaceous and so perfect. So I love that kind of difference that you can kind of pick out between the oysters. And we've usually used West Texas oysters. Now we've been sourcing our oysters for the last couple times up from the Chesapeake Bay area. So the New River, the James River, which are great. We've done Apalachicola, which is the local Gulf oysters. So I'm not sure exactly where we're sourcing the oysters this year, but it's always, they're always good, and they're each one has this kind of unique characteristic, a little bit maybe briny or a little bit, kind of meatier, but they're always awesome.
I love how he described it to you before you tasted it so you could get the full experience. That's really cool. mentioned that before Oyster Fest, you were hosting these oyster parties for, people that you knew. And I love that idea, especially as the weather is cooler here in Florida. It's a great time to have an outdoor party. So I don't know if you can recall any of the things that made the parties a success, but somebody listening is like, man, oyster party, I'm putting that on my 2026 bucket list. Do you have any tips?
I would always, I always recommend if you're new to oysters, right, and you're at an oyster roast or something like that, ask the people next to you, right? I think the beauty of the oyster roast is, we're cooking them and we're putting them out. But then once they're out on the table, everybody's kind of grabbing and they're opening them themselves and, you're helping each other. And what do you put on yours? Oh, I like it with butter and lemon, or I like it with cocktail sauce, or I just shoot it with, raw or with Tabasco or something. So everybody's got their own flavor. And I think that generates curiosity. It generates conversation. It generates kind of fellowship. And, that's what it's all about.
For sure. So how do you like your oysters and what do you like to eat them with?
I am a purist, so I like raw with just a little lemon. But if they're steamed, there's nothing better than like butter and like a butter, like warm butter on a steamed oyster. I mean, it's amazing. There
Oh,
was when I lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a while. There was a place right on South Boulevard called Vinny's Sardine Shack. I don't even know if it's there anymore, but they used to sell buckets of raw oysters, which is really, why we use the buckets to get them out to everybody. Because, you get that bucket and you dump it out and it's just like, oh man, this is heaven. It's right in front of me.
it's
And
like Christmas.
I used to go through those every weekend.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I told people on social media that I would be talking to you, and they had a couple of questions about oysters, including, and I think I know what your answer will be, but are oysters safe to eat these days? And what questions should we be asking maybe in a restaurant before ordering oysters? That's a tongue twister.
Yeah, I mean, oysters are always safe to eat. I mean, with anything, I think you want to be careful and cautious and use your senses, right? If it doesn't smell right, taste right, don't eat it. But generally, the harvesters are really good about maintaining quality. I think with the Apalachicola oysters, the reason that we've done a lot of oysters out of West Texas and out of the Chesapeake recently is because of some of the things that have happened in the Gulf, and there was, they basically put a moratorium on Apalachicola oysters for a little bit. So we sourced them from other places, and we make sure that we've been dealing with our sources locally for a while, and we got a good rapport with those guys. So we make sure that we're getting the oysters like less than, I think it's 3 days after they're pulled from the water. But yeah, I would just make sure, trust your senses, but generally oysters are safe.
Great. Another question was about the sustainability of oysters. And I know you're not an
Hmm.
environmental scientist, but someone actually sent me an article from slate.com that makes a case that oysters are ethically okay for vegans to eat. If
I saw
people,
that. I read that.
yeah, is that wild? So if people have environmental concerns about whether or not they should be eating oysters, what would you say to them?
I mean, I think oysters are a great indicator of the health of the ecosystem, of where they are. I think, one of the things that I really, hope for the Tampa area is that we kind of embrace and help, kind of grow the oyster populations in the Bay and around the area. If you go back and look at some of the old articles, the Tampa Bay area had at one point like the world's best oysters. And I think the bridges and the things that they did maybe with the waterways back in the day, kind of cut off the water flow, and subsequently the oyster population died off. I'd love to see that. And we've been talking to a lot of local farmers of oysters here in the area and trying to support them as best as we can. But it's tough. I mean, I think, I hope that the community supports kind of bringing the oyster back, to Tampa Bay, because it would be a wonderful thing for the region, I think it would, it inspires, kind of pride in kind of the local community. I spent a lot of time in Charleston. I know, Wake and Doug and Mark, have all enjoyed, the oyster culture up there, and it's a big part of the community, right? So super sustainable. I will leave it to the vegans to determine if it lines up with, with their philosophies, but I encourage everybody to look into it and make their own decisions. They're awesome to eat, and they're fun too. So
Love it. Okay, speaking of fun, let's go back to Oyster Fest. What do you see as the future of Oyster Fest? If your vision comes to life and Tampa does, reign supreme as like the oyster capital of America or something, what do you envision for the future?
Oh, I mean, Frameworks is such a great charity, and I think we're just lucky to be associated with them, and we've been super excited to see what the funds that we've been able to generate through the Oyster Fest have been able to do for them, right? And to see that the services and the offerings that they've been able to provide that they normally wouldn't have been able to. I think, over the 7 years that we've been doing it, we've raised quite a bit of money for them, and they've used that to provide scholarships and to, grow their offerings and really help people out. So, I mean, I look forward to keep doing the Oyster Fest every year and just growing it and, making sure everybody has a good time and, serving as many oysters as we can.
That's incredible. Okay, you've mentioned Frameworks a couple times, and I'm going to be honest, I did not know what Frameworks was. When you said you had an oyster party in the Frameworks parking lot, I was like, is it a glasses company? What is Frameworks? So can you just tell us a little bit about the added benefit of supporting Oyster Fest?
Yes. So as great as it is to go to an outdoor party on a Saturday and eat tons of oysters and a friendly environment, it also the money that you spend to go there is going towards a charity called Frameworks, which Frameworks is a organization that provides like social and emotional training for kids. So high school and middle school kids that need this social and emotional intelligence training, I think, is something I wish I had. I wish they offer adult classes, but they're helping kids, they're creating bonds, and it's really been fun to watch how they've grown and how they've expanded, in the area, and, not just in the Tampa area. I think they're growing, outside in the larger kind of region, and it's been fun to watch. So I encourage everybody to go, if not to just enjoy a ton of oysters, to support Frameworks and their cause, because it is awesome and it helps kids and they do a great job.
Very cool. So it's a win-win. Is there anything else you want us to know about Oyster Fest?
Bring your friends, bring your family. It's a great time. The music is amazing. The food is amazing. Everybody's happy and having a good time. And, the more people we can get to enjoy it, the better. It's for a great cause. So, invite your friends, tell your neighbors, go try some oysters, try them with different things. You definitely try the butter and lemon, definitely try cocktail sauce, try grilled, try raw, definitely try steamed. That's my favorite. When in doubt, go find an oyster and enjoy yourselves.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for your time. This was fun.
It was nice meeting you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bill Murphy is one of the organizers of Tampa Oyster Festival, which takes place on January 10th, and it benefits a great cause, Frameworks of Tampa Bay. Now, I know you're hungry after hearing this conversation, so hit up the show notes of this episode or our website, thezestpodcast.com, for a link to purchase tickets. I'm Dalia Colon. I produce The Zest with Andrew Lucas and Alexandria Ebron. The Zest is a production of WUSF. Copyright 2025, part of the NPR network.